with our meeting? Okay, thank you. We are going to go ahead and get started with our meeting. A couple of things. We would like to welcome our new city planner, Malcolm Jenkins, who is sitting over here at the table. And our recorder will not be here tonight, so we have Michelle Maragoni, who is the Riverdale City Recorder, filling in. We want to tell her thank you and welcome both of you. We appreciate your help with our meeting. Also, our attorney, Brandon Richards, will be joining us over Zoom. And Commissioner Wilson will be here tonight. He had an emergency at work, so he's running a little bit behind. We are going to have a Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Smith, and then we will have a reverence by Commissioner Severy.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Citizens of this great city to be able to get together and discuss items pertaining to our city. We pray that we might be able to do so in a calm and manner, that we might be able to allow our voices to be heard. We're grateful for this great land and the freedoms that it gives each and every one of us. And these things we ask in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have something that differs just a little bit from the agenda tonight. We're going to have Erin Mon come up, and is that okay? Okay. She is our community events coordinator, and so she is helping put together Tomato Days, and so we would like to welcome her and just have a little bit of a message from her.
Thank you. Actually, it's for you guys.
Okay. This is my first time, so I don't know what I'm doing, but basically I'm just here to beg for help manning the information booth, to request your kind presence in our parade and help to man the gates. So I just have time slots for volunteers to sign up. If you or anybody you know or love can help us man those spots, we would really appreciate it.
Okay.
It just takes a lot of hands.
Sure.
Okay. We usually are really good about helping with that. So if you want to, you could just bring that up, and then maybe we can look at it afterwards.
Okay.
Get that out to you. Is
Great.
that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. We're going to move right on and go to our minutes from the last meeting. Have you had a chance to review those minutes? And did you notice anything that needed changing?
We need to change the part where the Fane Powers subdivision, we never did talk that because he wasn't.
So on page 3, the second motion that's made on that page references the Fowers Legacy subdivision. I believe that was just copied and pasted maybe from the previous month and not taken off. That should actually be in reference to Clint and Linda Ozig's oversized structure. So that will need to be corrected. And then, did you have a couple, Jessica?
Yeah, and then on page 4, it says, at the very top, it says BJ confirmed. I just would like to add his last name, so it says BJ Hatch. He's, they talk about him just before, but I think it looks a little better with his last name. And then, on page 5, it has the voting, and we have 2 people listed twice. The bottom one should be Smith, because it looks like the same person voted.
Yeah, there's 2 Sheldons. I don't think the world can handle 2 juries.
Charlie, you get 2 votes.
Okay, any other themes that you guys noticed? Okay, I will entertain a motion to either approve or reject or amend the minutes from the July 11th, 2024 Planning Commission meeting.
With those changes. I'll second it.
Okay, so you can do it. You can make the motion. I can't motion it.
Oh, I'll motion it.
Okay, so
That we accept the minutes with those changes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Okay. We have a conditional use permit request for Stephen Mon for an oversized structure. Do you have a presentation for us, Malcolm?
I do. Would you like me to run through that?
Sure, please.
Okay. Looks like an oversized structure. You can see here total square footage of the structure is 1,710 square feet. Height 21 feet 10 inches. Structure will be used for storage. There will not be any plumbing installed in the structure. There will be electricity installed in the structure. Structure will be used for business. And they have applied for a business license with Hooper, and the explanation for the business shows manufacturing and storage of product. Let's go to the next slide there. You can kind of see a rendering here along with the site plan, what the structure looks like, along with the setbacks.
So on our copy, it's shown in inches instead of feet.
We all lean forward. That's what we did. We were trying to see it too.
So we just need to make sure that's correct, because,
Yeah.
I mean, we approve it, and then he can be 5 inches from the property line.
Yeah, we'll note it. Yeah, I didn't put this slide together. That's a good catch, so we will get that updated.
Okay. Is that the end of the presentation?
For Stephen Mon, yes.
Okay, is there a representative here? Could you please come up and give us your name and address and tell us a little bit about this request?
Sure, okay, my name is Stephen Mon. I live at 5890 South, 5900 West.
Go ahead and hook it up and I'll come up there when I talk.
5890 South, 5900 West. It's just a shed. It's actually the interior square footage is smaller than 1710. 1710 includes the awning on the outside, but it is planned for electricity, no plumbing, and it does say manufacturing. It's mostly assembly, but really it's a split use. I have lots of things that I need storage for in my personal home, furniture, tools, those types of things, but then half will be used for just some small assembly of some water filtration units that will fulfill through FedEx and UPS and USPS.
Okay.
Yep.
Does the commission have any questions for Mr. Mon?
What size is your lot?
It's about 0.43 of an acre.
I just ask because at that size, you must just barely be over the maximum square footage you even need.
Yes, and I actually tried to call the city recorder to see if it was under roof, the square footage, or if it included the awning. I didn't get a response, so
It does include the awning.
it does include
One
it?
of my neighbors had to come back and get a permit later because he added a
Okay.
awning onto his building for the same thing. So, yeah, you must just barely be over the limit. So.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so we will invite any members of the public who would like to make a comment. Just as a reminder for this application as well as any of the other applications that we will have public comment on tonight, there's a 3-minute limit to your comment, and we want to be nice to our recorder who is visiting and helping us out tonight, so please, respect her. If she gives you a signal that the time is done, then we need to adhere to that so we can keep our meeting moving along. Also, I just want to mention that we need to make sure that we're being respectful, not shouting out. We record these meetings, and so it's important that if you have a comment, you come up to the microphone and explain, tell us who you are, where you're from, and that way we have a record of what's being said. So if there's no public comment for this, then I will go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the commission. Any discussion? Okay. In that case, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit for Stephen Mon for the oversized structure totaling 1,710 square feet, located at 5890 South, 5900 West, with the amendment to the plot map that the measurements are changed to feet, not inches.
Okay, Okay, so I have a motion by Commissioner Greener, and do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Severing. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Thank you. Okay, we will now move on to the conditional use permit request for Joshua Muir for an oversized structure. Do you have a presentation on that?
Yes.
Okay.
That next slide. Thanks. Conditional use permit for Joshua Meir was located at 4372 South, 5400 West. Totaling square footage of 1,536 square feet. Total square footage of the ADU is 952. Height of the structure, 18 feet 9.5 inches on a half acre of property. Sorry, I can go ahead and go to the next slide. There's the location that the accessory building will be located. And there's a site plan provided with hopefully inches, not feet. Go back one more.
Okay, thank you, Malcolm. Is there a representative here from yours? Could you please come up and tell us your name and address? Explain a little bit about what you're doing. Hi. Hi.
So my name is Joshua Muir, and we are, and I'm at 4372 Victoria West. We are looking to build an ADU for my mother-in-law, just for general purposes of old age and moving around to her other house. And
We'll try to dump that old age remark out of the recording.
so anyway, as far as just convenience for family, and that's really much it. We are, I don't know, I didn't catch it. You said it was inches?
Should be feet.
Yeah, it's 20 feet all around the property line. It shouldn't be inches. But other than that, that is what the general purpose is.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Muir?
So is this an additional driveway or is it existing driveway to your house?
Yes, sir. It would be an additional driveway off the south side of the hall,
But currently the house's driveway is to the.
facing west, sir.
Okay, if there are no other questions, you guys can go ahead and
Thank you.
proceed. Thank you. This is a public hearing, so at this point we will open up for public comment on this application, if there's anyone that would like to come forward. I know you, but can you tell us your name and address, please?
Nick Karras, I live here in Hooper on 6250 West. I'm helping them construct the building. I think we submitted this plan, but I don't know if it didn't get put on the plan. So if you guys want to see what the rendering of it looks like, I think we
I
want.
think they
Right
have
there,
it.
yeah.
Oh, you do have it. Okay, perfect. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Any additional public comment? Okay, we'll go ahead and close that, bring it back to the commission for discussion.
I'm good. I think the only thing I was worried about is we have that ordinance to be behind the house. Sounds like it's behind the house. So
I think Blake was, because, and to be decided if we're going from the front edge, the home that has to go from the back edge of the home is going to be sunny.
it just has to be behind the bank. This is entirely behind the bank. So it's-
I just couldn't remember what we decided on that, how many feet, there was a number. Okay. All right. So if that's the end of the discussion, then I will entertain motions.
I'll make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit for an ADU for Joshua Muir at 4372 South, 5400 West.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Severing
I'll second.
and a second by Commissioner Greener. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Okay, so now on our agenda, we have a motion for a conditional use permit request, let's see, for Hooper Water Improvement District for drinking water well and
accessory buildings located at 4769 West, 5100 South. Just a little bit of background. Because we have previously had a public hearing on this, we've actually had more than one. Technically, the city is not required to have a public hearing. However, we realize that this is a very emotional subject for a lot of you, and that there has been some new information that has been brought forward. So I wanted to check with the commission and see how you would feel if we allow public comment at the end of the presentation, if we limit it to only new information that has already not been brought to the commission, and we'll put a time limit on it so that we can kind of keep some order to the meeting. What are your thoughts?
Okay with that?
If there's any new information, I guess.
Okay.
And the time limit on it's great.
Okay. Okay, so do we have a presentation, Malcolm, on this?
Yeah. More green slides, so we're just running through them, but yeah. You want to hit the next slide? Here's the location for the construction of the drinking water well, the accessory building, and the water tank. Jump to the next slide. There's the specific spot. You jump to the next. They're applying for a conditional permit allowed under that use. There's the ordinance. You can click to the next one. They're in R1. And so here's a site plan that shows the building along with the tank, the pump house, and the well tank. And so jump to the next slide as well. And here's some elevations showing the building itself along with the tank. So I believe that's everything.
Thank you. Okay, do we have a representative from Provider? Want to come up and tell us your name and address and explain? I know when you were here last time, we had some questions about noise study, so.
Corey Green, 5482 South 6700 West. At the previous meeting, we presented this whole presentation that is just recapped here. After much discussion, the commissioners requested for a condition to be met on the conditional use permit that the sound mitigation be studied and have a proposal for, which we immediately hired a consultant, I believe we're out of Denver. They came out and did some ambient noise for a baseline, and then they designed a noise mediation program to meet the ambient noise thereabouts. So I believe we have done what the Planning Commission has requested of us.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about what the leading factors are going to be in order to make this, like what we have in our packets, the conclusion, but just so the people here have an idea of what you're proposing to do.
No,
Okay.
but somebody else can.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, Cole Allen, 4862 West, 1850 North in Plain City. So the plan that was presented to mediate the noise is to build on 4 sides a curtain. They're 24 or 32 feet tall. We have the option. The 24 feet tall takes it down below what is a normally acceptable level in most city ordinances. The 32 takes it down to almost the same as a normal ambient sound. So we would like to build a 24-foot wall, but we understand that.
For reference, could you tell me how tall it was, the test well?
The wall, the curtain?
16
feet. Yeah, right, it was 16, okay, yeah, so it was 16, so it would be half again or twice as big as what we had before. That'll allow all the lights to stay inside of the curtain. We close on 4 sides with just enough room to drive the equipment in on the south end where there's no homes at all. So all the noise will be reverberated back to the south where it won't affect any of the local residents.
Do you know on the report what the decibel readings expected to be last time versus with these changes? Would it be an actual decibel level?
I don't know what they were before. We didn't record them, and it would just have been an assumption on our part what that noise would have been, and we didn't feel comfortable doing that. So we just took what the ambient sound is and then applied to this mediation to get it back as close to ambient sound as we could.
I have a question. So initially, I believe when you came in, it was November or it was last year, October, November, right around in there. My understanding was that the storage tank was going to be further south on the property. I think we discussed this a little bit when you came in this last time. And then now it's been moved a lot further to the north. Can you explain your reasoning for doing that?
So really it can be moved wherever is necessary. First, we feel like it's, one, it works better hydraulically, where we don't have to move the water as far, because it's going back to the north to go out into the system. And two, it actually is hidden better by sitting up further to the north, because the trees as you can see, we'll plant trees that'll cover it, but also the trees that are there now on two sides already will cover it. They're already taller than 20 feet. On the east side, past what the tank will be, and also on the north side, between it and the home that we own. So it'll have a sound barrier, but it also, if we're doing construction or anything like that, the trees will be there to protect that, but you won't be able to see it when there's any leaves on the trees at all. And that was part of the reason we put it up there, but it can be maneuvered on that property if necessary, but as long as it still functions with our system.
Okay. So is the house coming down that's currently on the property?
We're not sure what we'll do with the home. That hasn't been determined yet. And I wanted to know, there is in the study a section, I don't know if you noticed, kind of like a sub-paragraph that talked about the vibration. So that was addressed also in the noise ordinance.
About the vibration.
The vibration as
I
well.
noticed it mentioned that this wall will help mitigate the sound, but not the ground vibration.
Right.
And so, and it's hard to say, some of the things that
Sure.
have been suggested came from the drilling, whether that was from the vibration of the ground or the vibration sound-wise. So, okay. Anybody have any other questions?
What is the cost difference between the 24-foot tall and 32?
It wasn't very much. It was fairly similar. It was a little bit more for the 32-foot walls. They're actually pillars that are drilled into the ground a little ways, or like a fence post. But so it was a little bit more work, and they're a little bit taller, but it wasn't very much. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head.
If it's okay, I'd like to just read this little portion so that the people that are here are aware of what that study showed. So there are two options, a 24-foot high wall, as you mentioned, or a 32-foot high wall. It says, with the implementation of the 24-foot high wall, the resulting sound levels are reduced by at least 5 decibels at all receptors. This corresponds with a readily perceptible change according to Table 2.1, which is in our packet. It is noted that the resulting sound levels are above the 50 dBA decibel
levels,
okay, guideline from the West Haven noise ordinance. So with that 24-foot high wall, it would still exceed what they allow in West Haven. Am I understanding that correctly? And then it says, with the implementation of the 32-foot high wall, the resulting sound levels are reduced by at least 10 decibels at all receptors. This corresponds with a halving of loudness change according to Table 2.1. It is noted that the resulting sound levels are below the 40 decibel guideline from the West Haven noise ordinance. So that would bring it down below what West Haven's ordinance is. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding that and that the people here are aware of that. Okay.
And their ordinance is a fairly common level for other cities that we've pulled out their ordinances to look at, and it's pretty common level.
And just for everybody's information, the reason they went off of the West Haven noise ordinance is because Hooper City currently does not have one. So something to think about. Okay. Anything else?
In this picture, someone mentioned some flooding when you, I guess, first started digging the well.
The test well.
Yeah, the test
Okay.
well. So is know if that was something we were anticipating, or if that was something that we have kind of an action plan to maybe prevent or even slow down.
Yeah, probably a lot of it. So, I'll answer up here. We will have a plan to mitigate against the water. We're gonna pump it out and we'll go into the storm drain, Wilson Irrigation Ditch, and go out to Howard Slough. There may be some overrun through that like you saw there. Part of the reasoning behind that and what we're trying to avoid is when this is done in the winter, there's no infiltration into the ground's frozen. And also, so it could have stormed, I don't know what the weather was like at the time, but those things can contribute to the surface water, and we're doing everything we can to take the test well water and divert it to the slough, into the drain. There may be a little bit of excess water, and we can even use the detention pond, do it before if we need to hold that water so there is no leakage into neighboring properties.
That's what I was gonna
We were
ask.
unaware of any neighbors having any water issues. This is the first we've seen of this.
I had a question. I know this is a little bit of a sidetrack here, but when we discussed the well over on 5500, that proposed site, part of the issue was, to my understanding, we didn't have a way to drain that water off of there, but is that land not currently being farmed, and is there not a drainage ditch already in place that, like you're using the one for Wilson Irrigation over here, what would be the reason you couldn't use that there?
That drain ditch, the other end of that drain ditch doesn't go anywhere that will accommodate the amount of water that will be moving. It's very little tail water that goes down. It's actually an irrigation ditch. The drain ditch is across the street. There really isn't much tail water on that one. The amount of water we would put in would need to go down through the city storm drain, and that's very undersized for what we need to do. So that's the biggest obstacle we have, both the Hooper City side on 5500 West and the UDOT side on 5500 South. That one is also undersized and would have to be piped, and that's a lot of work to get that done as well. So a lot of time.
But using Wilson Irrigations,
There
that's going to be sufficient?
In the off season, it will be sufficient. Yeah, we tested it this spring, ran it at peak flows of what we would put down that ditch, and we had excess space in that pipe. So we planned it would more than accommodate what we're going to put on it, as long as it's an off irrigation season, which is what we're planning. We hope to do this early in the fall rather than in the winter, so that the ground is in better condition and we can get that water there better and not have any winter storms at the same time.
And I just to let you know, I double checked that with Jared. Sorry, I went to him and I asked him, I said, is this going to put any like extra use on our sewer system? Is it going to, cause it to work too much? And he said no, that both that can handle that, that there's going to be no problems.
Is anybody from Water aware of what happened with this? Like, any of you guys that are here didn't hear of anything flooding when you guys were drilling before it hit the water? Okay.
I know about it, I can tell you that, it's in my backyard.
Okay. All right, so we will have a few moments for public comment, but before we do that, any other questions for Water from the commission? Okay, all right. Okay, so this is not a public hearing, but we are going to allow some public comment. Again, just to reiterate, 3 minutes. We're only allowed to come up to the microphone 1 time per person. And this is only if this is something that we haven't heard before. This has come before this body now 3-4 times. And so we are aware that this is something that a lot of you are very concerned about, and we have diligently tried to look into those concerns and hear what you have to say. If you do have a comment to make, and this is new information, then you're welcome to come up, and we will let this go. Let's see, it's around, I can't see very well, oh my God, 7:30. So we will go to 7:50, and then we will close public comment. So we'll go ahead and open that up to you now. Please come up and say your name and your address, and go ahead and share your concerns if they are new.
Bruce Taylor, 4745 West, 5100 South in Hooper. And I will start out with describing what that picture is. That picture is when they busted through the well, there was a 72-hour period. They had no control of this water, and it flooded all the fields. It filled up 2 septic tanks. And for 72 hours, they had no way to control this water. All the water out in that green field, that's my field. And as you can see, that's what we were dealing with in this whole situation. That's what was in my backyard right there. And also this gentleman, I mean, he says, I don't know what happened. That's because Corey Green don't know what happened because he wasn't even here. And this gentleman lives in Denver, Colorado. So obviously, none of them know what went on. Anyway, on page number 7, can we pull that up briefly? I mean, they put out a 15-page report on noise, which we're going to talk about today. But they gave 3 minutes of explanation of the noise. If we can pull up number 7, I'd like to talk about their report.
Yeah, you can go ahead and start. I'll start pulling it up.
I need to go to the board if I can, so.
You can take the microphone away.
I think he's wanting this picture
I need the-
from the
I need-
packet, from
I
the
need
noise.
I need number 7 pulled up, but we couldn't, they didn't even pull up this assignment number 7, page 7. I hope all this don't count against my time.
We've got it in front of us, Bruce, if you want to start telling us what you want us to see.
Okay. On page 7, this is a noise-sensitive receptors. This says at the top of this page, the noise-sensitive receptors have been placed at the closest nearby residential homes in all directions for evaluation at a height of 5 feet above the ground level. Can Mr. Colorado, can you explain how this report works?
There is no Mr. Colorado waiver. However, yeah, those are receptors we put on the model on the computer, and those receptors are placed an elevation on that computer, and that's what that is modeling, is the vibration that we picked up on that sensor. Not physically, but electronically on that program.
Just so we have everything recorded, if you do have questions, we'll allow Hoover Water to come back up and answer those questions so that, because we won't be able to hear them on the recording. So.
Gotcha. So my point here is it does say the noise-sensitive receptors have been placed at the closest nearby residential homes. And it shows 8 different receptors put in the back of 8 different homes, which did not happen. Anyway, I'll move on. So we've already talked about the picture in the field and the noise and everything that went on there for 72 hours, septic tank, etc. I'll move on. During our presentation on June 13th, which we know was a 3-hour meeting just a couple of months ago, we're talking about noise, and these gentlemen want to produce a 15-page, $10,000 report on noise. Well, let's just go to reality of what noise is. If you go back to that meeting, at 2 hours and 22 minutes into that meeting, our good commissioner, Sheldon Greener, and I quote exactly what he said, and this is when he's talking about noise. He said, and I quote, "I have a question about the drilling process on the 5500 site. I swear I heard pounding every time I went by there for days. I drive past there, you know, the Sinclair site, with my windows closed, my radio on, and I could hear heavy pounding in my car." I don't think we need a 15-page report to realize that we all have ears and we know what goes on around here with noises. That's what we're talking about. Also, that site at 5500, as everyone knows, is a full acre out into the field, nowhere near the road. Also, since we're talking about noise, we all heard Katie Parkinson's noise. We're talking about noise, and we all know about Katie Parkinson's noise. Just a short reminder.
Bruce, sorry, the 3 minutes is up. I don't know if your wife wants to maybe finish your comments, but we did hear Katie's recording, so I think we're all aware of that noise and the level of the sound that was coming from her home.
Katie, would you come up and give 3 minutes, please? Come on. That's what she's asked that she says that you can do.
Thank you. Okay, can you please give us your name and address?
Kathy Taylor, 4745 West, 5100 South.
Do you want to pull that microphone down just a little bit so we can hear your voice? Thanks.
Do you want me to repeat?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
Just tell me you want to play this.
Okay, I'm going to play this sound. Okay.
That's enough.
Okay, so we've gone through at least 4 years of torment by this corporation. I would call them bullies, the Hooper Water District Improvement District. The Planning Committee has denied this permit 3 times, and I would appreciate that one more time you would protect us citizens and deny this.
Thank you, we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
That report went quite download, sorry about that. As soon as we get it, we'll get it up.
Good morning, how you guys doing? Will Strauss, 5223 South, 470 West, Upper. And thank you for clarifying that probes were not placed at residences, as we are probe number 5 on that map. And we didn't see anybody, there's no cameras, nothing on the cameras. So thank you for clarifying that. And that just tells us that the test is flawed, 100%. That the equipment that is to be used to drill should be brought on site, the wall should be put up, and the sound should be tested with the equipment that's going to be used. Not a small little fence post with a possibly rubber mount and some guy just hitting on it to test sound quality on a computer simulation program. Firefighter, health and safety program officer as well. I've been on multiple cases with hearing conservation, with environmental, with the military agencies, and wind also affects sound distance and traveling too. So with equine, with families, with everything else, sound plume will turn and will adjust whichever the way the wind is going to be going to. On protected sound, it's single digits of 70 decibels. Yes, 85 is the threshold for dangerous noise levels. However, at 70, for more than 8 hours, is damaging. We have kids, toddlers, 2-year-olds. We have great-grandkids in the vicinity of the area. We ask that you guys are protecting us, protecting the residents and the families of this well, and move it over to Sinclair site again, please. And what equipment is to be used? Make them use the proper equipment that's going to be tested and that's going to be on site. We are the most affected house in that area. I want to protect my family. As a firefighter, I know what hearing conservation is. I have tinnitus, I've been in combat, I know what hearing loss is. It is not fun, and I want to protect my 2-year-old and the families around us. Just please listen to us. Please help us out and make sure we're utilizing the right equipment. Having 4 walls of sound barrier may enhance the sound because now it's going to reverb off of all 4 sides, not just 3 and mitigate it down to the south. Thanks.
Thank you.
Karen Peterson, 4651 West, 5100 South.
I just wanted to say thank you to all you up there. You've all done a great job. You've done your best, and I just want to say thank you for that. The next thing I want to say is last time, I always sit in the back, but last time I was up here in front of all these guys, they were snarky about people coming up here talking. They were rude and snarky. Smile all you want. It's the truth. And it was awful. I was ashamed. That's it. I can say more about that, but all this would be taken care of if they would go down to the Sinclair place, pay the money they have to pay to drain that off, out in the middle of the field where there's nobody, instead of causing anxiety and all the rest of this to us down on that 4700. Sometimes I think 4700 West is being sacrificed for all of Hooper. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bring my iPad so I can actually see the documents. I'm getting old. Travis Bates, 5008 West, 4950 South. My comments aren't remotely about the sound. I think everybody's pretty familiar with how everybody feels about that. I have concerns about the property, the house at the front of the property. I was listening to Mr. Taylor talk last time. Multiple renters supposedly in the house, up to 5 and 6 different people. I drove by the house today. The conditions aren't great. There's garbage all over in the front of the yard. It's not very well kept, which obviously people keep their yards to different standards. But my concern is if Mr. Taylor is telling us that they're having to contact law enforcement quite often, I think there ought to be some conditions put on the house, maybe a single-family dwelling, or demolish the house and do something different with that property. But I don't think that's very ideal. If this does get approved, that we've got a house sitting up front that could have 4, 5, 6 different renters living in it with zero skin in the game. So, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Dylan Robinson. I live at 3223 South, 5100 West here in Hooper. I have some concerns about the retention pond. As far as I was aware, Hooper didn't allow retention ponds. I also don't feel like this map is accurate if they say they're potentially keeping the house and potentially not. But where is the house on that map?
So my understanding is that the house is over in front of the culinary water storage tank, and it's actually a detention pond, not a retention pond. So there are detention ponds in a lot of the subdivisions that you'll see out here. It's not meant to retain the water, it just slows it down.
Okay, they can just refer to it as a retention pond as far as I heard. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Katie Parkinson. I'm with the noise thing, right? I'm at 4839 West, 5100 South, and quite near, probably about 500 feet away from where this is going in. I wanted to ask these guys first, I hope this don't count on my thing. Is this going to be the same sound barrier that was up before? Is it a more robust barrier, or is it the same thing? You chose not to give me one, I know, last time.
We'll have them answer that question when they come up, just so that their response can be recorded,
Okay.
so that we have that on record.
And also I noticed if that is, that the ones that are on the other side were still hearing it, even though it was, so it didn't help. Also, there's an ordinance that Hooper has, 0-2022-06, noise ordinance. That just went in 22, and it reads, it's number 2 on that ordinance. Noise disturbance means any sound which annoys or disturbs reasonable persons with normal sensitivities, that would be me, or which injures or endangers the comfort, repose, health, hearing, peace, and safety of other persons. Even though this isn't real loud like what my thing was, it's still going to keep me up at night. And you guys are going to give these guys a license to make that noise 24/7. Now, if it wasn't 24/7, that might be a difference too. This is 24/7 and I don't sleep well. And you're going to, when you sign this, and you let them do this, you're giving them a license to do that to me for 2 months. If I don't last through it, I hope you, because I'm going a little nuts, just the anxiety of having to go through that again. And I don't think the barrier is going to help it as much as, even if it's a low noise, it's at night. Even when somebody's playing music at night, you guys don't tell them turn it down if it's annoying. And it's going to be. And you're going to give them a license to do this to us. I also want to say, this isn't the only issue, the sound. I live close enough, I have pastures. I've looked into a lot of things on wells, and it makes a big thing going around it, and it draws the water on down. And we don't have to water much because we have good groundwater. I know they say it's not going to happen, but they run this silly test and say they've checked my backyard, which I've never seen. I don't trust them. And once it's done, I can't do anything about it. I wish you guys would run a test. I wish you'd get an impartial person and make sure that this isn't going to damage our property. I mean, when you said you'd go on the noise, that's enough. It should be enough. I shouldn't have to go through that. And I should be able to call every single night it bothers me, and the cops should come out and talk to them, and they should get a fine. Because it's going to bother me, and you know it is. So when you sign that, that's what you're signing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, it is 7:47. Time for one last comment if there's anybody else who would like to comment.
I would like to. I'm Marvin Zog. I live at 6354 West, 4800 South, Upper Utah. At this point on these comments, I am not representing the water. I'm representing me. If any of these folks think that what Hooper Water Improvement District is doing is bad for a matter of 30, 45 days at maximum of drilling and getting that all situated with the noise, they need to drive up 5600 South between 3500 West and 3100 West in Roy, where they're doing all that new construction on that road. That noise has been going on for a long time. It will continue to go on. And after they're all done, that road is so close to their homes that they will have noise 24 hours a day. Hooper Water is only trying to do that and will only be noisy for the period of time that they're drilling that well.
Thank you.
Deborah Maragoni, 5245 South, 5100 West in Hooper. I just have one question, and I want to know how many times can someone bring something back? Is there a limit, or can you constantly come back till you get the answer that you want? Thank you.
Thank you. That's actually something that we have discussed as a commission, putting some things in place as far as limitations, how soon somebody can come back and request a conditional use permit. We have things in place for opening the general plan, requesting a rezone. There's some stipulations if something like that were to get denied, that it can't come back for another 12 months. But my understanding is that currently we don't have anything like that in place for conditional use permits, but it is something that we would probably want to look into. Okay, we are going to close public comment, and I would invite Hooper Water, whoever wants to come up and answer some of the questions that were posed, if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you. Just want to try to address.
Can you give us your name and address?
Oh yeah, Ryan Christensen. My address is 1084 West, 3050 North. I live in Pleasant View. I took a few notes on the things that were brought up. I just want to bring up try to answer a few of those questions. With regards to the request from the last meeting was that we prepare our model, that we went out in the district, went out and contracted with a consultant that specializes in this work. Just wanted to reiterate that this is a model, so and it is a model that they do. They work with all the major drillers in the West, really, and the basis of this model is utilizing data that they collected on equipment that is going to be used. And just to reiterate, those receptors, obviously, I guess the terminology being used in terms of they were placed, meaning they were placed in the model. I just want to reiterate that. So, that's really, in terms of the feasible studying of a site like this, is really as much as we could go. Just want to reiterate that. So, a little bit on the results of this model. It was a 46 daytime decibel ambient noise and a 43 nighttime is what was measured. As indicated, as you read, the 32-foot tall wall, that brings, it depends on what receptor we're looking at, but there was a 49 decibel all the way down, ranging to a 43 decibel rating on those receptors. So, we're recognizing that our attempt was to be below what we felt like was the best available ordinance of the 50 decibel, but also trying to go that to understand what we could do to maintain as close as possible to both nighttime and daytime ambient noise. And that was the strategy of the study. With regard to the sound wall, I just want to reiterate that in terms of the question of what was in. There was two 16-foot sound walls, and what is being proposed is for something in the rate. I think I can say that the district is willing to go that extra route. Obviously, our intent is to do all that we can and get to the 32 feet sound walls for that decibel rating.
And that's going to be on 3 sides, right?
It would be 4. There is an opening. There has to be an opening for equipment, and the opening was planned to be faced on the south side. That was what the consultant's recommendation was based on their studies. That would be the most mitigated approach. The other topic I just wanted to touch on is the district's plan for these sites, right? This site, in addition to the 5500 site, is planned for continued development of water and distribution to the district, to Hooper City, and all of the users in the district.
What is the estimated timeline on that?
Yeah, so we're looking right now at 2026. Now it's hopefully 2025, but 2030 timeline is what we would be looking at for another source. I know we went into this at some depth last time in terms of a lot of that depend on growth and depend on use, and there's some factors to that. But it isn't to say that there isn't a scenario that really plays out that requires or doesn't require another source. And actually, the master plan calls for additional sources that the district is anticipating in this build-out scenario. Just wanted to mention that. So that is something that is a key component of their master plan. That not only this site but the other site gets developed to continue to be able to develop water for the users. I think at least that's all I kind of noted on the questions. If there's any that you recall that I can help answer, maybe.
So I just wanted to make sure I understand when we've talked before, it was discussed that my understanding was I thought that you had provided most of the water for West Haven, but I received some information this last week that there were 4 entities that were supplying water to West Haven. Is that true?
Yeah. So your comment was something that we really went back and wanted to think about. As Cole and I talked, is obviously we rarely think of the individual entities within the district boundary, right? We operate within the district boundary oftentimes. As we went back and put some efforts into bringing all of we have West Haven on the north, Hooper City, County, and then West Point. And I don't know if you were able to see that map that was produced, but you'll notice that the portion of West Haven that is served by Hooper Water is basically from 4,000 south. And generally speaking, right, there are a little bit of anomalies in that, but you know, which is by the map in our review of that, which is generally speaking the developed portion of West Haven. There's very little, you know, one large property that I can think of that's within the boundary, and it's along 5100 West area. That being said, to your point, there is, I mean, so the Hooper Water serves the south, Bonavista Vista serves within the district, West Haven City has their own district, and Taylor Sweeper serves within West Haven. Each of those other three outside of Hooper serve the northern end of the district, the northern end of West Haven City. So, you know, it was interesting as we analyzed the district's future growth by entity and not by just district. And that, you know, obviously there's growth in West Point. There's undeveloped land down there, but it is the smaller portion of the district that remains undeveloped. And within the county and Hooper City is the lion's share of the open ground that these future sources will serve.
So did you go off of open ground, or did you go off of what our zoning shows as allowed?
Yeah, I mean, both, really. And really, the intent was simply to understand what portion of the district, what portion of Hooper Water District serves what area of the district is made up by each entity. You're right, and I think that's the map that you saw, but also in terms of just simply where growth will come and we, again, didn't really, for the purpose of this, I didn't get into the nuts and bolts of the number of connections, but simply put, I mean, growth will come where undeveloped ground is, regardless of the density. I recognize that, but that's where the increased water will be required. Right? I mean, if nothing happened from here to now, then right, there's sources in place to maintain those, but we all know that that's not going to be the case, and the district has to plan for that.
And how long will you be drilling? Was it 2 months that this is going to go on?
Yeah,
24/7 or?
The drilling, though, I mean, Neil Burke, when he was here last time, you know, they indicated that it's likely that there's a you know, operationally it may be a 2 month. I think that was pushing. I think that's a conservative approach, but the actual drilling that he indicated was more in the realm of a 3-week drilling period. There is a pumping period, though. There is a pumping period, and there's a well development period over there where, you know, I mean, I could just kind of lay that out a little bit. We get in there, they put the barriers up, they move all the equipment in, they go through that extensive drilling period, and then they go through a development period of that well, and that period is where all the drilling equipment and those you know, that the lion's share of those machinery equipment are not on site anymore, and we're just pumping water from the source at varying rates and at varying depths, so that they can understand how best to fully equip that well to provide the most and best water.
I had a question for you on the noise mitigation. So the report, you know, we're looking at below 50 decibels. But what if it's above 50? Like, what are additional things that can be done? Like, I mean, do we put a condition on this that says can't be above 50? And what if it is? You know what I mean?
I mean, I guess that's one of the things we struggled with initially is what does the city allow, right? And that's you know, when we hired the consultant, that was their first thing, is that we don't know what our threshold is, and I mean 50, you know, again, was the neighboring city's code. I don't know that I'm prepared to answer you of what can be done. I do know that, you know, again, that I've gone at length to talk about why the district is trying to accomplish this, but once drilling starts, you know, it isn't something that we can necessarily pull off and reevaluate without starting all over again, if that makes sense. I don't know that, I do know that we would be willing and to go the measures that are feasible to be able to accomplish mitigating additional unexpected noise, I guess I'll say. But, you know, I think we've gone to the best of our
little bit about what steps you're going to take to address the concerns that Mr. Bates brought up in his question as far as the renting of the home? Are you guys managing that? Do you have a property management company doing that? Are there things put in place to make sure that, you know,
I'll probably defer to the management of the district to maybe fill that a little bit, but sorry, and last thing, I did realize I forgot to answer your question on the drainage. So I mean, we are implementing something that was, let me start over on that. The development of a permanent well is there is more water discharged from a permanent well than a test well. And based on that, prior to even having a project in place, we've gone through and studied the courses that we can, the steps that we can take to be able to have a location to discharge this to. And that was talked about in detail by Cole. And that is our mitigation for any surface water. We do not plan to discharge water into the south field like was accomplished last time as a solution for discharge. So
is
I wanted to
that what
touch
this
on that.
picture is showing? Is that what you mean? Or-
That is not in the south field. I really, and I apologize, I can't speak to that particular. I do know, right? It was aware water was everywhere, and I'm not saying that wasn't an issue or cause. All I'm saying is I can't really comment on that, but I am saying that we are planning on mitigation, and we've studied that, and it's a 7 CFS max that we're trying to discharge, and that's what we measured. We have the capacity to be able to do that. So, as regarding the house, if you guys might want to fill that question.
First, the house is on a separate property. It's really not connected with this issue. But we don't have any firm plans for the house. But it's very likely that once we have this well nailed down and taken care of, we no longer need that, and that would be put up for sale, most likely. We have a property management company that takes care of it. We forward all complaints and try to get resolution through that management company.
But currently, if there's issues with that, if you have city codes that can be enforced, that's something that needs to be looked at if that's the case.
I agree. If you feel like there are ordinances that are being broken, then we contact the city in regards to the home, and hopefully we have a code officer that will come out and check into things. Any other questions for Hooper Water before I bring it back to the commission for discussion? Okay. All right, so I'll bring it back to the commission. Thoughts?
Well, as it's been said, we've denied it a couple times. This last time we put some conditions on there, and they've come back with this report, this study, and have done their due diligence. I mean, if you look at our one ordinance that talks about it's Hooper City Code 10555B. It says, a conditional use shall be approved if reasonable conditions are proposed or can be imposed to mitigate the reasonably anticipated detrimental effects. And to me, they've met those. I mean, we can sit here and continually say, well, you got to do this, you got to do this, but there's, and maybe Brandon, I don't know if Brandon's on, but in my mind, the word here of reasonable conditions, which I think they've met their reasonable conditions. And
the verbiage is shall be.
Shall be.
It could be, or
Yeah.
Shall be is actually pretty important.
I know there's a lot of interest in the 5500 well site, but if you look at their presentation, come 2028, 2029, they're going to start drilling that one because we're going to need that. I mean, do have the 2 wells. They have 3 wells. The well in West Point is non-usable because the water is absolutely terrible. So really, Hooper City is only pulling out of 2 wells in Roy, and we need the water. I mean, everybody loves to drink, so I understand that citizens' concerns, but I just go back to that Hooper City code that says reasonable conditions are proposed and met and reasonably anticipated. We can't anticipate all the issues, but I think they've done a fairly good job of addressing the issues we put before them, and they come back with a pretty good presentation. So, I mean, when I first heard of the well, you envision, hey, is it going to be like the one up 4,000 that stands 120 feet in the air? And this is only going to be 20 feet tall.
I think that whole site is shrunk down from the original size.
Yeah,
Everything was bigger and taller in the original proposal as well.
If you don't do that and you have them subdivide it, you're going to get 35-foot homes in there. You know what I mean? So.
Well, and plus the noise, I mean, the noise is a big, huge concern, but that's temporary. I mean, as soon as that's up, like you said, you go look at the one in Roy, and I would love to have that in my backyard. You know, it's quiet. It's
The one in
maintained.
Kent's?
Yeah, you know, it's quiet. You'll never have neighbors back there. You know, it's not that noisy. Like you said, it's not tons of homes in the backyard.
It's better than what's going to happen when the West Weaver corridor comes in and advances the North Davis corridor.
What about the idea of locating the holding tank further south on the property so that it's not so close to those residents? Is that something?
Well, but I think Cole made a comment that hydraulically speaking, it would benefit them. That's why they moved it, because if they have to spend more money to move the water, then your culinary bill is going to go up, and so is mine. I mean, I got a neighbor that uses it for watering his lawn, and his bill last month was $800. So I don't really want to pay more for my water than I have to.
And plus you brought up that those trees are already tall enough to kind of disguise it. You know, he said there's already trees in place that are almost 20 feet tall, so that helps disguise them.
I mean, like, they said they could move it,
They
and
did say that.
I think that neighbor right there is Bruce. Like, is there a site that, I mean, not on the site, but like, where that moves, Bruce, does that make any difference to you? It impacts you the most?
Yeah, of course it does.
So if it's right there on the site plan where it's showing now, you would prefer it to be further south?
Yes,
How far south?
out in the middle of the field where it ought to be. It ought to be down on 5500 where it ought to be.
It should be in the neighborhood.
Okay, so we've got to,
Okay,
need
so
to make sure that
is there a way to have the tank where the detention pond is and, or, move that around much?
because that was initially how it was brought in, right?
Yeah. We can move it, we can look at it. We did have it there initially, I'm sure we can make it work. I will say, having been on the property and standing where that tank will sit, right now, there's already trees on the east side, so there's little tiny green dots on there. There's already trees there that are probably 18, 20 feet tall. And there's trees on the north side, which is towards the house, where the big green trees are, that are 40, 50 feet tall. They're way
So-
up trees.
so where-
So as
where
we move
else
it south, it's in the view of more people. And it's already 200 feet away from the homes. Like, we're not talking it's 20 feet away like you saw the wells. They're hundreds of feet away from the homes now as it already sits. But if we can move it back there, if that's the condition, that's the condition. That's fine.
Can you just point to me so I can see where you're thinking about?
Yeah, so, this is the east property line.
No,
Bruce's house sits like
Yep.
here.
Yep.
The old property we own, the home sits here. There's already trees here that are 40 feet tall. There's property along, on the east, on our east property line, there's trees that line here about to there already that are anywhere from 10 to 20 feet tall, right on the property line. So the further, you know, and the homes are sitting, like I said, here, so you're 150 plus feet from the tank. And there's a structure that sits right here now, it's a garage. So it doesn't become an eyesore for anybody to the east until you get to here, which it actually affects the people on 4700 more than it does the people on 5100 south, because they're looking at it where these people are looking at trees until they get to it, if that makes sense. The further back we move it, it's now affecting more people around it, whether they're there now or come in the future, but that is just going to be in the middle of more people. So again, the water's going this way, so it makes sense to hydraulically move it that way, but if we need to move it to the south, which is down here, that can be done.
Not to sound dumb, but if you have to pump, you said the water's moving that direction, so it makes it easier.
Yeah. So
Does it also make it quieter? I mean, I went to the plant and it was so quiet. I was impressed at how quiet, but I was just thinking, you know, when you're interrupting the flow of water, you said it makes it easier, so it would make it benefit, it would be a bigger benefit to stay that way. I guess.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but the pipe that we're pumping into is in 5100 West, it's 18-inch line, which is where the water has to go to get into our distribution system to serve everybody in the city. And so, and it's going to sit about here compared to the map, right? So we have to pump it out to that line and then into the system. So right now we're pumping out of the well, and it goes in, is pumped into the storage tank, and then the storage tank will release it into the system. It has to be pumped into the system. So the farther that this has to go, we have to use more electricity, more power, bigger motors to get it out to the system to pump it because it has to go further. So doing it this way is just closer to the distribution system there. It's quieter and it's more efficient, cost efficient to have it here rather than back there. But again, if that's the whole level,
This is probably not a smart question, but I have to deal with this. So your test well is further south on the property, right?
It's about right. I think it's about right. I would say it's about right there. We're going to drill probably here.
You'll still be within the orange square.
Pretty much, yeah. I don't know exactly, but that's kind of it'll be well within that orange square where it's at now.
Okay, so there's no chance that you're going to get down there and be like, oh, this water's not as good as what we thought.
Which
Like
is
what
exactly
happened
why
in
we-
West Point. I guess that's my concern. Like, we don't want to put everybody through all this and then have you get down there and be like, oh, this water's horrible.
Which is exactly why I think the state's a 50-foot radius, but the state allows us to do our production well within a 50-foot radius of our test well, and we'll be within that 50 feet for that exact reason. So we don't find different geology, different water. We're having the same water we were anticipating.
Well, and my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, you can drill a well because you have permission from the state. You're coming here to get permission from us for the holding tank. Like, we can't tell you you can't drill a well, right? Am I right on that, or is that, I don't know if Brandon's there.
I'm not
could be
sure on
wrong.
city codes how the conditional
I'm
use
just
that
curious,
as I understand it, we're asking for conditional use for the buildings and to use the property outside of residential.
Well,
but it's not necessarily written. Anyway, yeah, go ahead.
in our general plan, if you look at the map, we have a light blue square right there that was for.
We do have that, and there was some conflict about that being put on there. I was.
Well, it wasn't any different than the 47 parks we had on the agenda. I'm being facetious, but you know what I mean?
Well, it had been denied by the commission at that point that the general plan was done, so I questioned having that designation on there, but that's beside the point now. So if I was under the impression that you get your permission to drill a well from the state.
Correct.
Not from us.
Correct.
But we are deciding whether you get a conditional use permit on this tank.
To use the property as we desire.
But if we can guarantee.
Can you hear me, Commissioner Prince?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
You guys. Okay, so you guys just asked me a couple of questions, so I'll just try to answer those real quick. So I do think that the well drilling is probably something that the state allows them to do. We're looking at more at the buildings and the holding tank and so forth. And then as far as what was mentioned earlier about just the city code related to conditional use permits, that is correct. And that's no different than any conditional use permit that we consider, including the oversight structures that you guys discussed earlier in the meeting, I mean, that's our standard, that's the state standard also, that basically you look for the detrimental effects, and then you look for any reasonable conditions that you can propose. And so the packet that the applicant submitted, at least on the one I have, the very last page contains a bit of a chart there that kind of covers the topic, the concern, and then the proposed mitigation. And so if the commission approves this, I would recommend that you incorporate, all those mitigation efforts as conditions on this application. So I think those are the two questions that you mentioned, but anything else I'll jump back on.
Thank you. I definitely feel like if you guys decide that you want to move this forward, we should go with the 32-foot wall versus the 24. I think anything we can do to mitigate that, I think we need to try and do that.
I have a quick comment. As I look at what's there.
Would you mind coming up to the microphone? Sorry. You're with Hooper Water, right? That's why
I'm
we're
with Hooper Water.
allowing this, okay? Just want to clarify.
As I look at the size of the tank, the prepared water, if you try to move that over into the other corner, you're going to have to do a lot of other shifting, and it just doesn't look to me like it would make sense to do it. The other thing too is that where it's at, it's less seeable there than it will be over here, just like Cole mentioned. But also then you'd end up with a lot more piping that you'd have to do to get it back out to 5100. So when all's said and done, the engineers have tried to put that where it would all work the best and be hidden the best, and that's the way it really ought to stay.
Where will that detention pond end up if you move the tank further south? Where the tank is?
I mean, you can see what needs to be there, and we have to just move those things around. So if something moves, something else will have to move. The building, the well house building has to stay where it's at. It can move a little bit based on where the well is, but it has to sit over that well. But everything else has to move.
I think the way outlines makes the most sense.
I do too. I like the cost effectiveness where it's given. I think the layout is in the best interest.
Any other discussion?
And when they did the test well, sorry, I'm talking to the microphone better. When they did the test well, there was concern of, cracking from vibrations and stuff like that. And I recall Martin saying something along the lines of like, people need to document that stuff, and you guys would take care of that. You guys have insurance bonds that deal with that kind of stuff, I assume, correct?
Correct. And no one has come to us. They're more than welcome to bring us what they have. We do have all of those things in place. Same insurance as the city. We're a public entity, so we have the same insurance as the city, and the bonds and construction bonds, everything that goes along with that.
So the people go through, record their houses in the current condition, the drilling starts, vibration starts, they come to you with that damage, and you guys will take care of that, correct?
Yeah, we'll take that, directly then, to the insurance companies and the bonds and make sure they're taken care of.
Thank you.
Does that include vet bills for horses and animals?
Okay. All right, if there's no further discussion, then I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit for Hooper Water Improvement District for a drinking water well and accessory buildings located at 4769 West, 5100 South, with the 32-foot sound wall exception as stated in their presentation.
I have a motion from Commissioner Severie. Have a second?
Is there any other conditions that we need?
That was what I was going to say. I would suggest you incorporate all those conditions on that chart on the back of that packet, at least.
From our presentation from June, is that what you're referring to?
The one,
Conditional use permit concerns and mitigation plans.
is that the one you're talking about, Brandon? On the last.
Yeah, that's correct.
last page?
You could just incorporate that into your motion as one of the conditions, that that entire plan be incorporated as a condition.
So I don't need to start over?
No, just amend it to include that conditional use permit concern and mitigation plan on the back of the package by reference. Those are all conditions of the permit.
I'll make a motion that we include in our motion all the conditional use permit concerns and mitigation plans as stated in the presentation that was sent to us by Hooper Culinary.
Okay,
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Severing and a second by Commissioner Greener. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the motion passes. Just as a comment, we realize this is personal to many of you, and it's difficult to sit in this position sometimes and make these choices, but we are bound by what the ordinances say. And I know we've had a lot of discussion and we have tried very hard to come up with solutions. We've tried to listen to what you have said, but we also are bound by the law. So hopefully you know that we're being sincere in that, and hopefully this will end up being good and we'll all have good drinking water and you guys will work together and it'll be a positive thing. That's our hope. So at this point in the meeting, we have a period for citizen comment. This is for anything not on the agenda. So if anybody has anything that they would like to come up and comment on, again, 3 minutes. And
Hi, I'm Rebecca Chase, 5312 West, 3250 South in Woodward. We just wanted to express our concerns with the 66-foot pole that was installed by Taylor West River Water and Rawson Ranch in the lift station area. Our property shares a fence with that, and I brought a picture to show where it is in relation. It is 31 feet from our fence, and it's a 66-foot pole that's going to have an antenna on top of that. It'll be 70 feet when it's done. One of the conditions of the permit was that it would not fall on property of a resident, and it is 41 feet from the fence to the south, 58 feet from the fence to the north. It is 68 feet from the fence to the west, and 31 feet from our fence to the east. So there is nowhere in that lot, actually, that it could be put that it wouldn't fall on someone's property or in the street.
It wasn't a property, but a structure. Is this your house?
That is our structure, yeah. It's a garage, it's an exterior garage.
And I went back and listened to the minutes. I'm pretty sure we said we would like that fall zone to be contained within the property.
But we knew that it couldn't, because like she said, nowhere can it be placed that it would, because the property's too small.
Yeah, so we kind of, and it also looks horrible. We just wondered if it could go somewhere else. And we also want to protect other people on Hooper. I don't know if this is the first one to go up. I don't know if no one knew what it would look like. We certainly had no idea. We didn't get a notification. I know that was another one of their requirements. I didn't know about it until I went up in my backyard. So there was nobody here because hardly anybody knew that it was even happening. There are other people in the neighborhood that also did not know it was happening. So we would have loved to, but also the note said that one person did get it and we read it and it said an antenna. Well, how would we know what an antenna is going to look? We had no idea it would be a 70-foot pole that looks ridiculous. So our homes are also, nothing can be taller, like our garage cannot be taller than our home. So it's got to be 25 feet. Nobody's home is 70 feet in our neighborhood. So it just is towering over everything and looks really silly. So we just hope that you would reconsider that placement there and hopefully find another spot. And if there's other, I'm sure this is not the only one they're going to use. And so we would hope they would not put it in someone else's neighborhood either.
So we can't make any type of determination.
I know.
Just so you're
Yeah.
aware.
Yeah. I just wanted you to be aware that we are concerned.
And I have been, I think you contacted
Yes.
me, and I've had a few residents that have contacted, and so I passed on those concerns. hopefully they can work together with Taylor West Weaver and find out what's being done about the situation, because my understanding was that it was supposed to be contained within the property from the wording in that meeting.
I agree.
But,
And it was supposed to be closer to the building.
yeah, to the.
They made it
or-
so like it would be right next to their.
Yeah,
If
well,
they
they
put
assured us they could do that, that was, I mean, in the meeting, they assured us they could do that.
If they
so-
put it next to the, like behind the building, it would, the only one it would fall on is now the new property that is going to be developed. So eventually there could be an issue.
And as far as the notices, I did check with the mayor, and she verified with the recorder that those did get sent out to the homes that they were required to be sent out to, so I'm not sure what happened there.
We also didn't get our mail-in ballots, so. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Hello, my name is Nicole Flink, and I live at 3217 South, 5325 West, and I also am here to talk about the same pole, slightly similar things, but thank you to the commission for hearing us tonight. So the 70-foot pole was installed in the area next to the lift station that's directly across the street from my home, and I just wanted to come and appreciate your willingness to listen to a couple of concerns. And after listening to the minutes of the meeting, it seems that it was approved under the requirements to not be next to neighbor structures or anything it could fall on. And you've seen in that picture that Rebecca Chase showed that it is right next to the fence, very close to a neighbor's shop that's being built. The pole proposed antenna seems to be out of place for our neighborhood. And like she mentioned, had we been notified, I actually was notified. I was one of the ones that did receive, so I did receive a notice. However, it was very vague, just described an antenna, nothing else. So I assumed, given that there was a lift station across the street, that it could have just been something small attached to that building. It just towers over all of our homes and seems very out of place. You can see it for miles as you drive towards our neighborhood. Many neighbors have expressed dislike for the look and placement of the pole. And in this, we're kindly asking if possible if there are better places than this area for the pole, and also any falling of the pole would potentially damage properties, the shop, as well as potentially harm children or people in the street. It does just seem very large for where it's at. And not to be trite at all, it does seem very strange, so we would love you to consider that. And we thank you for your time and consideration. It's appreciated.
Thank you. Just out of curiosity, do you know, was that building under construction already before they started putting the pole in, or was the pole put in and then they started building the?
No, that picture was taken, so I have a picture of the day that the pole went in, we were that far along.
Okay, thank you.
One other random thing, I think maybe Rick mentioned it, maybe not. We, to the west of us, that neighborhood, there is nothing, which is wonderful, but it creates a lot of wind. So this is a concern. We have a lot of wind. In fact, it impacts a lot of things I'm trying to do in my own home, gardening, different things. And so that is a concern, that there is probably an overly normal amount of wind gusts that come through that area. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My name is Dylan Robinson, 3223 South, 5100 West. Also in concern on this pole installed in a residential neighborhood. It does not follow the CCNR of the neighborhood. It is very unsightly. I mean, it's a nice little neighborhood. Now we've got this pole sticking up in every sunset picture you take. It's essentially wasn't notified correctly. I don't know. I assume that Mayor Bingham can check over those receipts that they have for the notices that were sent out, but I think we're slightly outside of the range, but this neighborhood is very active in keeping track of those things in general, so I don't believe that they were sent out correctly, and I do believe that it should find a new home.
Thank you.
Also, is this the appropriate venue, or should we take this to City Council?
So it was a conditional use permit, and I'm not sure what happened with the mailings, but that the public hearing was held at that time, time so that people could come and express their concerns. And we didn't have anybody show up. I don't know what happened with the mailings, maybe because it's a newer subdivision, I'm not sure. Ask Councilmember Hill. I don't know, because he works at the post office, so but as far as changing it now, I don't know that that's an option to get them to move it to a different property where the conditional use permit was approved. However, the conditions of that conditional use permit need to be adhered to.
Yeah, and even then, it would potentially anywhere on that property fall on the city pump house. As far as I'm aware, the city owns that, and that would be a potential problem that their pole isn't owned by the city, and so then you're going, essentially no matter where it's placed in there is potentially falling on somebody else's property other than their own.
So as I mentioned, we have passed this concern on to the mayor and to Public Works, and hopefully.
I'm just making sure we're going down the correct avenue and not.
Yeah, I can't give you any more information other than that, but I would contact maybe the city offices and see. We, as a body here, we can't do anything about it as it stands.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're listening to non-consent approval.
Yeah, I agree. So, any other public comments?
My name is Bruce Taylor, 4745 West, 5100 South, Hooper, Utah. And the only comments I have is thank God you only got a 70-foot telephone pole in your backyard. I got a $6 million water facility.
Okay. Seeing no other public comments, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
I have a motion from Commissioner Greener and a second from Commissioner Smith. All in favor?
Aye.